Let your eyes set out from the white blossom at your feet and travel back hill after hill until the land gives up its detail and turns to blue. That bluing is not decoration. It is the air itself, thickening with distance until the farthest mountains seem made of the same stuff as the sky. Painters call it atmospheric perspective, and once you've noticed it, you'll see it everywhere, in any view long enough to hold a horizon. Stay a moment with the cool edge where the hills dissolve. Count them if you like, but you'll lose your place. The shoal repeats and overlaps until the fish stop being individuals and become a single restless surface. What keeps it from chaos is the color. A hot red laid against its exact opposite, a cool blue-green, so the two seem to hum where they meet. Set side by side, complementary colors always do this. Each makes the other louder. Let the pattern pull your eye into its current and notice how hard it is to look at only one. See how little is asked of her here. The paddle rests, the boat barely moves, and the whole green world leans in close, bank, blossom, and shade pressing to the water's edge. This is a particular kind of warmth, the heavy quiet of a summer afternoon when nothing needs doing. The white of her dress is the one bright note the scene allows, and the eye returns to it gratefully. Let yourself arrive at her unhurried pace and stay a while in the cool of the bank. Here the world is given to you twice. The peaks stand once in stone, and again, softened, on the still face of the lake. And for a moment, it's hard to say, which is the more real? A surface this calm behaves like a second canvas, repainting the mountains upside down in cooler, quieter tones. The flowers in the foreground do their work too, holding the near edge so the distance can open behind them. Find the line where rock meets reflection and watch how gently the picture folds in half. Four olives on a stick, the smallest of subjects, and yet here they're given the scale and seriousness of a portrait. That's the quiet magic of still life. Take something you'd never look at twice, enlarge it, light it well, and it begins to repay attention. See how the paint is left thick and unsmoothed, so the maker's hand stays in view, and how the restless stripes behind throw the calm round fruit forward. Next time a small thing is set before you, try giving it this same long, generous look. There's no single flower here to settle on, and that's the point. The poppies repeat across the surface until the picture stops being a portrait of a bloom and becomes a rhythm. Full flowers, tight buds, and the balled drums of the seed heads, all keeping time. This is the logic of pattern, the same instinct that turns a field into a fabric. Look for the round seed pods tucked among the petals. They're the same plant a few weeks on, the end already folded into the flower. Let your eye move and don't let it rest. Everything here is pulled from the dark. A single light finds the split fruit and the spilled seeds, lets them blaze, and leaves the rest to shadow. The way a held breath gives weight to what follows. That's chiaroscuro, the deep play of light against dark, and it turns a bowl of fruit into something close to an event. The reaching hand sharpens it further, catching the moment of opening rather than the tidy result. Watch the brightest cluster of seeds. Everything in the picture is arranged to send you there. One gesture carries the whole image. An arm lifted, a hand open at the very center, reaching for a disc of pure yellow. Almost everything else has been taken away. No detail, no depth, just flat bodies, a warm field, and that one round sun. Stripped back like this, feeling has nowhere to hide. The simpler the shapes, the louder the longing. Notice how the empty orange space does as much work as the figures, holding them in their reach. Let the picture stay unresolved, the hand forever a moment from the light. Try to find the edge of a single animal, and the herd defeats you. Stripe runs into stripe until one zebra's flank becomes the next, and the eye simply gives up sorting them. That confusion is the whole purpose of the pattern. Bold lines break an outline apart, so a body dissolves into the crowd. Against the hot red ground, the black and white only sharpens the trick. Pick one face and try to hold it. Feel how quickly your gaze slides off into the dazzle of the rest. A single tree, and the whole hill arranges itself around it. There is nothing else to look at. Dry ground below, open blue above. So the cloud of pink blossom carries the entire picture. See how the soft, round cloud overhead quietly answers the round crown of the tree, shape rhyming with shape across the sky. One flowering thing against so much bareness reads as a kind of courage. Stand with it a moment, the way you would pause for anything that insists on blooming where little else will. Everyone here is mid-step, and none of them will ever finish. Skirts swing wide, arms lift, a whole ring of bodies leans into the same turn, and the picture holds that motion still without freezing it dead. The secret is the diagonals. Every limb and hem tilts the same way, so the eye reads spin, even though nothing moves. Warm dresses press forward, cooler ones fall back, deepening the circle. Let yourself feel the rhythm they're keeping, and resist the urge to straighten a single one of them. Read this one from front to back. First the low tangle of flowers, then the pale columns of the trunks, then the burning canopy behind. 3 layers, each overlapping the last, and that overlap alone tells you what is near and what is far. The white trunks stand like the bars of a fence, steadying all that restless autumn color. No single thing is the subject. The picture is built of depth itself. Walk your eye slowly back through the layers and let the forest open one screen at a time. You can almost hear this one. The drummers bend over their skins, hands caught mid-beat, and the whole surface answers them. Leaves, sleeves, and shadows, all cut into the same sharp, syncopated shapes. Notice how little space there is to fall back into. Figure and foliage are pressed into a single bright plane, so the picture reads less like a window than a woven cloth. Flatness is not a failure of depth here, but a way of turning rhythm into something you see. Find the beat in the shapes, and the room fills with sound. Whole, a fig, gives nothing away. Split, it spills a crowded pink interior no one would guess from the dull green skin. And that surprise is exactly what has been set before you. A few fruit, some leaves, a plain dish, all lifted out of deep shadow. This is the old discipline of arranging very little and asking it to hold the eye. The contrast does the work, the rude green outside against the tender inside. Lean in close to the cut faces, where the fruit has, in a sense, been opened for you. Here is a lesson in one color. Almost everything belongs to a single family: shell, coral, rose, the faint grey of a folded wing. And because the hues are close kin, the crowd reads as calm rather than busy. Painters lean on this often. Keep to neighbouring colours and a picture turns harmonious, almost musical. Notice too how the long necks repeat the same slow S, line echoing line through the flock. Pick out the one bird whose curve runs against the others, and the whole gentle rhythm comes into focus. Reach toward this, and your fingers expect two different things: the cool give of the grapes and the hard gleam of the cup. The whole pleasure of the picture is that touch is delivered through the eye. The dusty bloom clouding each grape, the bright dent of light on metal, the soft fold of cloth beneath. Render surfaces this convincingly, and the mouth begins to water before the mind catches up. Linger on the bloom on the darkest grapes. It is the kind of detail that took looking and rewards it. The sun lays a road of light straight down the water, and your eye walks it without being asked. That bright path is the painting's quiet command. It leads you from the far hills to the near boats, and the lone figure shipping his oars for the day. Everything else has surrendered to dusk, the colors drawn down into a narrow band of red and green. So the whole scene seems to hold one long breath. Follow the bright path to the near bank, and let the day close at the rower's slow, even stroke. Learn the parts, and the flower changes before you. Each iris opens in two gestures at once, 3 petals arching up as standards, 3 falling away as falls, each fall marked with a fuzzy golden beard that guides insects in. Once you can name them, the crowd of purple stops being a blur and becomes dozens of the same elegant machine, repeated. Knowledge does this to seeing. It sharpens it. Pick one bloom, find its 3 falls and their beards. Then look up and watch the whole bank organize itself. Follow the trailing veils downward and try to say where they end. The bells hold firm at the crown, then dissolve into the dark water below, their edges found in one place and gone the next. That softness is not vagueness. It is how a thing, made mostly of water, ought to be painted. Half here, half given back to the sea. Light seems to pass clean through them, as if each were lit from inside. Rest your eye on the blurred margins rather than hunting a hard line, and the whole slow drift begins to breathe. The rows will not let your eye wander. They run from the bottom of the picture straight to the little house, narrowing as they go, and you follow them whether you mean to or not. This is the oldest trick of depth, lines that converge as they recede, pulling the gaze to a single point. Here, a red roof among the trees. The lavender supplies the color, but the furrows supply the journey. Set your eye at the near edge and let the rose carry you up the slope to the door. Spend a moment on the dark water before the fish. That deep, almost black pool takes up the center and does nothing. And that nothing is what makes the rest work. Hemmed in by crowded lilies and pale blooms, the eye needs somewhere empty to rest, and the open water gives it exactly that. The two koi drift in and out of the shadow, half shown. A picture this full would tire you without its quiet patch. The calm is as composed as the color. Let your gaze settle on the dark before it wanders back to the gold. One ribbon of peel does all the work. Everything else sits still. Lemons piled in chased silver, a glass holding its pale wine, fruit halved on a plate. But that single rind, unwound and dangling over the edge, sets the whole arrangement in motion. A lone curving line dropped into a calm group is an old way of waking it up, giving the eye a path and a small thrill of imbalance. You can almost taste the sharpness it promises. Trace the peel from fruit to tip and feel the still table quietly tip into life. Follow the eyes and they tell you where to look. Two women bend their heads together, both gazes cast down and inward, and without a single arrow, the picture sends you straight to the sleeping child between them. We instinctively look where painted figures look. Their attention becomes ours. The warm red of one headcloth is the only strong color, and even that seems to bow toward the baby. Rest where they rest, on the small wrapped weight at the center, and the whole tender geometry clicks into place. Look for pure white among these peonies, and you will not find it. What reads as white is really a quiet riot of color. Green where a petal turns into shadow, grey-blue in the hollows, warm cream where the light lands full. That is the secret hidden in every convincing white flower. It is painted almost entirely in other colors, with true white saved for a few final touches. Against the near black leaves, the blooms seem to glow. Hunt the colored shadows in the petals, and you will never see white quite so simply again. Almost no sky, and that is the decision that matters. The poppies climb nearly to the top of the frame, leaving only a thin ribbon of cloud, so the red has nowhere to stop, and the field feels as though it runs past the edges of the world. Push the horizon high like this, and a landscape turns vast, even overwhelming. The eye stops counting flowers and simply drowns in the color. Lift your gaze slowly to that far green band and feel how far you have traveled to reach it. These are colors you could hold in the hand. Heaped in their bowls, the turmeric, paprika, and green are not painted to look like anything but themselves. Pure pigment, the raw material every other picture is made from, piled here in little mountains. Strong light rakes across them and throws a hard blue shadow up the wall, turning the whole scene into a simple play of cones and angles. It is a reminder that color is a substance before it is an effect. Look from the powder to the shadow and watch matter become design. All the commotion is up top. A dozen heavy heads crowd and nod, almost too much for their stems, while the plain white jug sits quietly at the base and holds the whole burst steady. That is balance at work. A great visual weight gathered high needs a calm, simple anchor below, or the picture would topple. A few petals have already let go and lie on the table. The only hint that this fullness will not last. Steady yourself on the white jug first, then let the heads tumble forward into all that gold. The land has been sorted into colors. Reds, then a blaze of orange and yellow, then deep pinks. Each variety laid down in its own broad band, so the field reads less like farmland than like a paint box emptied in stripes. Simplified this boldly, the scene becomes pure color arranged in order, almost a spectrum you could walk along. The small windmill on the skyline gives the eye one still point to measure all that brightness against. Travel band to band from warm to cool and let the colors sing in sequence. The light here is in pieces. Sun filters through the trees overhead and scatters across the lane in restless coins of brightness and shade, falling over the white dress, the stones, the climbing roses alike, catching this broken, dappled light. There one instant, gone the next, is one of the hardest and happiest things a painter attempts. The woman strides through it with her jar held high, perfectly at ease. Watch the scattered spots of sun rather than the figure, and the whole quiet lane seems to flicker and move. Look closely, and the picture admits how it was made. Across every leaf and petal runs a fine mechanical grain, the speckle of ink pressed through a screen, so the autumn colors sit on the surface as flat, printed shapes rather than rounded forms. Far from hiding this, the image enjoys it. The texture of the process becomes part of the texture of the leaves. There is honesty in letting the method show. Move in until the dots appear, then step back as the leaves close again into one crisp, graphic fall. It moves like a sentence, left to right. The camels cross the dune in single file, each one a beat in a line, their bright woven saddles the punctuation, and reading that row in order, you feel the slow duration of a journey rather than a single frozen moment. A procession does this. Repeated figures strung along a line turn space into time. The ridge tilts everything gently downhill, easing them on their way. Let your eye walk the line at their pace, and the long patience of the crossing settles over the whole scene. In all this pattern, your eye goes straight to the one thing without any. Blue and white scrolls, leopard spots, painted blooms, and a busily figured cloth fight cheerfully for attention. And the plain coral jug, smooth and undecorated, wins by saying nothing. That is how hierarchy works on a crowded surface. Difference draws the eye, and here the difference is simplicity. The single, quiet shape organizes the riot around it. Find the plain jug first, then let yourself loose in the patterns, and notice how you keep returning to it for rest. Two things share this branch that never meet in life: open blossom and fully ripe fruit, flowering and harvest at once. It is no mistake. Decorative painting has always claimed the freedom to gather everything flowering and everything ripe into a single, impossible, generous bough. The deep green behind pushes the white blooms and warm oranges forward until they almost press into the room. Enjoy the abundance without consulting the calendar. Some pictures are made to give you more than the year ever would. Two temperaments meet along this edge. The chalk cliff stands utterly still, square and patient, while at its foot the sea will not stop moving, flinging white surf against the rock again and again. A picture often runs on exactly this kind of opposition. Something immovable set against something restless, each making the other more itself. The gulls on the near grass take the cliff's side, calm and settled. Watch the line where water strikes stone, and feel the whole scene balance between what holds and what keeps breaking. There is a road, so of course you take it. The pale track winds back between dark cypresses and olives toward the blue hills, and the eye follows it into the distance without being told. This is one of the kindest things a landscape can offer. A way in, a path that turns a flat image into a place you can enter and walk. The tall cypresses stand by like guides along the route. Set off down the lane in your mind and notice how readily a picture becomes somewhere to go. Squint, and the whole thing turns to light. A line of figures hauls a rope through the shallows, and the sun behind them blazes off wet, white dresses, churned foam and bare, wet legs until edges almost burn away. Painting full sunlight means chasing its glare, letting the brightest places go almost pure white, and trusting a few darks to hold the picture down. The effort runs straight along the taut rope. Look at how little solid color survives the brightness, and feel the heat and dazzle of the shallows. Look at the shadows, not the sand. Where the dunes glow warm orange in the sun, every hollow and the long lee of each ridge falls not grey, but cool blue and violet. Shadows take their colour from the sky and from whatever the light is not. So warm light almost always casts cool shade, and a painter who knows this makes sunlight believable. The lilac shrubs in front echo that shadow colour, tying near to far. Trace one blue shadow up a slope, and the desert's warmth will feel twice as warm. Look past the colour to the shapes. Tall foxglove spires rise like steeples among the rounded cushions of roses, and the flat little faces of daisies and zinnias. A whole vocabulary of forms gathered in one bed. A garden delights the eye partly through this variety of silhouette. Spike, globe, star, and bell, each cut differently against the dark leaves. The richness is in the mixture, not in any single bloom. Sort the shapes, one type at a time, and the dense border quietly arranges itself into kinds. The dark cliffs stand aside like the wings of a stage. They rise steep on either hand, framing a long corridor of still green water that leads the eye straight back to the bright snow peaks at the head of the fjord. Walls like these do quiet work. They close off the sides and funnel your attention to the one luminous thing in the distance. White flowers mark the near threshold where the corridor begins. Travel down the water between the cliffs and let them deliver you to the far, shining peaks. Fold this picture down the middle, and the two would almost touch noses. The hairs leap toward each other in near mirror, one echoing the other's reach among yellow blooms and dark leaves. This balanced facing off is an ancient decorative habit. Paired beasts set symmetrically, calm and emblem-like, the way old tapestries and crests arrange their animals. Perfect symmetry can feel stiff, so small differences keep it alive. Find where the two hairs fail to match exactly, and watch the design breathe inside its near mirror. measure the field by the women. The nearest bends close in her red dress, large and clear. Behind her, the others shrink step by step into the gold until the farthest is small as a doll. Because we know roughly how big a person is, those dwindling figures tell the eye exactly how deep the field runs. Human size becomes a ruler for distance. Their bent backs carry the patient labor of the harvest. Read from the near red figure to the far one, and feel the whole field open out behind them. The light does not stop at the glass. It enters the jar and fills the honey. So the amber seems to burn from inside, rather than merely shine on the surface. A thread of it lifting bright on the dipper. That is how translucent things behave under a strong side light. They glow, holding the light like a lantern instead of bouncing it away. The plain bowl and dim ground keep their quiet, so the jar can blaze. Watch the gold deepen towards the bottom, where the light has the furthest to travel. Their green is not a color you could mix on a palette. It is the green of beetle shells and oil on water, a sheen that shifts as the bird turns, flaring to copper and rose at the throat, then cooling again. This kind of color comes not from pigment, but from light splitting on the feathers themselves, which is why it seems to move while the bird holds still. The red flowers they feed at make the effect blaze hotter. Tilt your attention from throat to wing and watch the color change before your eyes. Everything has gathered on the left. The lotus blooms and their great leaves crowd one side of the picture, while the right opens into bare, dark water and a few floating pads. And far from feeling lopsided, it feels exactly right. Leaving one side nearly empty is a confident kind of balance. The full weight on the left is answered by the calm of the space on the right, tension held between them. The quiet water gives the flowers room to be loud. Rest in the emptiness first, then let the blooms gather your eye back. One pose repeated 5 times, and never the same twice. 5 women walk in a row, each steadying a laden basket on her head with a raised arm. The identical gesture, yet every figure turns, leans and drapes a little differently, and each wears her own pure color: green, yellow, pink, orange, blue. This is theme and variation, the pleasure of a single idea played over and over, with small changes, the way a tune returns altered. The plain blue wall lets each color ring out. Walk the line and watch the one gesture bloom into 5. Nothing here is shown whole. The magnolia branches push in from every side and run straight off the edges. So you are given a fragment and left to imagine the rest of the tree beyond the frame. Cropping this boldly is a borrowed trick. Cut the subject at the border, and a picture feels less arranged, more like a glimpse caught mid-glance. The flat teal sky throws the pink blooms forward, with nowhere to recede. Let your eye leave the picture at one edge and quietly complete the branch outside it. Night does not darken everything to the same degree. Here the trees have gone wholly black, flattened to a single solid shape, while the reed plumes still hold a last blush of pink, and the sky keeps a deep, luminous blue with the pale moon riding in it. This is the discipline of the Nocturne. Drop the colors into a narrow, cool key, surrender detail to silhouette, and let one or two glints carry the whole scene. Pick out the few things still catching light, and feel how loud a quiet palette can be. It takes a moment to find her. A woman's pale face sits at the center, but the owls and falcons crowd so close, and the red ground swarms so busily with pattern that she is nearly swallowed by her own company. Hiding a figure inside surrounding shapes is a deliberate game. The eye must hunt, and the finding is the reward. Once you have her, the birds seem to arrange themselves around her like a court. Lose her again on purpose, then find her once more, and the picture plays with you both ways. The trees will not hold still. Olive leaves are dark on one side and silver on the other, and painted as countless small strokes of both. They flicker between grey, green, and white, as if a breeze were passing. Your eye blends those little marks into a living shimmer, the way it blends any close-set colours, mixing them for you, brighter than a flat tone could ever be. Set against the hot red earth, the silver only trembles more. Stand back and let the leaves mix themselves. Step close and the trick falls into separate strokes. Each fruit is a small lesson in roundness. Watch how the light slides across a single persimmon. A bright spark where it faces the window, a slow darkening round the side, then a faint glow low down where light bounces back from the bowl. That journey from highlight to shadow to reflected light is the whole grammar of making something look solid. Flatten any step of it, and the fruit would collapse to a red disc. The crisp shadows pin everything to the cloth. Follow the light around one persimmon and feel it swell into a sphere. Half close your eyes and the harbour simplifies at once. The clutter of boats, sheds and barrels collapses into a plain pattern of lights and darks. And the white hulls leap forward as the brightest notes of all. So the gaze hops from one to the next around the still water. Painters plan the skeleton of values first, knowing the eye reads light and dark long before it reads detail or colour. The green tower holds the middle. Let your attention bounce between the white boats and feel the whole scene hang on them. The sheep pour down the slope like something spilled. Scattered as they are, they read not as separate animals, but as a single pale stream winding from the high pasture toward us. And the eye simply follows the flow. A crowd of small similar shapes will do this. Gather into a current that leads the gaze as surely as any drawn line. The lone shepherd and the smoking valley sit quietly beyond. Trace the white spill from the top of the hill to the bottom and let the flock carry your eye downhill. The trees may be the subject, but the shadows to the drawing. From the foot of every pale birch, a long blue shadow reaches across the snow, and together they rule the white slope into a fan of cool diagonals far more active than the quiet trunks themselves. Shadows can be composition, not just the dark sides of things. Here they organize the whole foreground and lead the eye up the hill. The firs behind hold the dark. Follow the shadows rather than the trees, and watch them stripe the snow into order. Everything here is held by an outline. Each bird, leaf and blossom is sealed inside a clean drawn contour and then filled with flat colour, the way a woodblock builds a picture. Line first, hue second. That confident edge does an enormous amount of work, telling you exactly where one shape ends and the next begins, so the flatness never turns to confusion. The deep blue ground presses every outlined shape forward. Run your eye along a single contour, all the way around a bird, and notice how completely the line alone describes it. She will not look up, and that is the gift. Bent over the white warp on her loom, wholly given to the threads, she lets us watch without being watched in return. And a figure absorbed like this feels truer than any who meets our eye. There is a particular tenderness in painting someone lost in work, unaware and unposed. The strong light pours across the pale cloth and her white sleeves, gilding the quiet. Stay at the edge of her concentration and take care not to break it. Most pictures hold still. This one falls. The wisteria spills from its vine in long violet chains, every racemo hanging heavy and pulling the eye steadily downward until even the leaves and the shadow on the wall seem to drip. A composition can have a direction as surely as a gesture, and here it is gravity. The whole image leans down, slow and luxuriant. Where the blooms thin out, the bare blue air lets them breathe. Let your gaze drop with the longest chain to its very tip and arrive gently at the end of the line.